Only the project cost in terms of setting up of the cluster, that Greenfield Textile Park, was about 55 crore, where the government grant was made use of and the loans were also part of it. So if you look at whether it is Kenjo Road or the skill development program or this kind of program or in Tripura, you have the partnership of all the parties, the stakeholders together. Look at the park, about where training centers to the looms exist and the weaving, pre-weaving, post-weaving, and also important is hostel, because all of them there around Coimbatore have the huge problem of the workers, non-availability of workers. So instead of each one trying to hire the SPV, which owns the park, because SPV in turn owned by the user themselves, have 500 seated hostel. So each of the enterprises within the park takes about 10 rooms. 50 seats are taken by each one, about 10 companies take 500. That's how the shared common infrastructure can be created. Similarly, here SPV takes the bulk connection, distributes power to the members. Water supply is bulk. A lot of this shared common infrastructure is there, and by which these economies of scale can be created, cost could be reduced. And the third model is existing clusters, setting up of common facilities. Kanpur, which is funded by SIDBI, GTZ, World Bank, they're all part funding institutions to this, DFID also. We are implementing that program in Kanpur cluster, where we looked at a range of services that are required for the MSMEs and the other enterprise there, largely in terms of strengthening the business development services to the countries. And it could be in the form of skill development program, several such stuff has been done. And if you look at this design development, effluent treatment to skill development, the range of interventions were done in existing cluster, and the creation of park is not necessarily a requirement here. But range of needs that are there in the cluster needs to be identified. The fourth one is that existing industrial estate. Like we picked up this example of Vatwa near Ahmedabad, one of the largest industrial estates in the country, and where it's chemical industry cluster and effluent and water mixed together, and you can't differentiate between road and whether road exists or doesn't exist also is not known. And absolutely in Shenmue, if you go in during the monsoon season, there is no way of even reaching that place by your car. You need to stop outside and walk a kilometer to reach your factory. And that kind of place, unique financing pattern was done, where the property taxes being paid by this Vatwa industrial estate members to the corporation were escrowed. Out of that, the loans were raised. Then the government grants were donated. Then the entire infrastructure within this estate was upgraded. And if you look at this, this is the kind of road and position before and after how the roads were done up. The effluent treatment lines were not there, they were done up. There was a lot of such infrastructure improvements have gone into this. Again, the model was government, industry, and institution ownership. Mind you, in all these interventions, the leadership position has always been with the industry. Except in case of Tripura bamboo, which I mentioned, because the livelihood sector, marginal segments of the society, where the government, where he was talking about, Manfred was talking about market failure, where the government has to step in and provide those kind of hand-holding support. All are examples, it is industry, through a collective entity, whether it is their association or a special purpose vehicle company form, which took the lead and which mustered thereby the support of everybody. You take the leadership. Out of my experience of the government, outside the government, international organization, I can vouch for the support of other stakeholders, provided you have a very genuine commitment, leadership and collectivization on the part of the industry to address any of these constraints. The last count, Government of India under various schemes, the schemes, the booklet that was released, you will go through that, at least $1 billion is available. 4,500 to 6,000, 5,000 crore grant support is available under various schemes of the government to the industry and largely to MSMEs, but to collective entities with the name of clusters. If we have come together and take the responsibility of addressing the problems, government support is there. Banks should be falling. We ourselves mobilized, funded close to about 1,500 to 2,000 crore through a consortium of 15 banks and financial institutions we created. We funded many of these cluster interventions, whether it is road, whether it is industrial park or effluent treatment plant, many of them we did fund, which means we are a financial institution. We own, operate toll roads, to power plants, to several of them, and we finance. So we also find it attractive when the people come together because you create requisite scale, size. without scale and size, it's very, very difficult for a service provider to come. At the same time, it's not economical for you. So if you do that, banks will be interested in doing it. Then the best part is the international institutions, technical institutions like GTZ or the service providers like Dell and others who are sitting here will find it very convenient to reach, and above all the markets. We have seen many of these paths that were created. You will find the gap to several of these buyers going there and trying to find. Otherwise, if you want million meters of fabric and you have to go around 4 different towns of Tamil Nadu to get it, Salem to Erode, everywhere. But if you have a path, maybe half of your requirement can be met from one source. So that's the advantage. You can get the market, you can get the technology linkages, you can create common infrastructure, thereby reduce the cost. Above all, you can also meet environmental compliances, which are very, very important today to survive in the business. Therefore, my request, my suggestion is that come together, organize yourselves, and the government, institutions, and service providers will not be found wanting. And as IL&FS, Infrastructure Leasing and Financial Services, we have exclusive focus on MSMEs and clusters, ranging all the interventions as I mentioned. We have capacity to assist you, of course, on a commercially sustainable